All right, everybody. Welcome to another Business Strategy Roundtable. Happy Friday. Today we have my friend, I hope it's okay for me to say that, David over at Helped. We're going to be having a conversation about owning the customer experience. And if you've got a business or if you want to be an entrepreneur, you're probably going to end up having customers, hopefully going to end up having customers. So thinking about that will maybe allow you to keep them. So it's going to be a good conversation. And it is the Friday before a 3-day weekend, which is exciting. How are you, David? Hello.
I'm good. Hello. I like to call them triple Fridays in some cases. It's the Friday before a 3-day weekend. And for some folks, they might have just gotten paid today. So it could be a triple Friday for them.
Very cool. Very cool. I saved this for here. Because I think a lot of people are excited and thinking about what they're doing for Memorial Day. And I'm excited thinking about what you might do on Memorial Day. So you got any fun plans this weekend?
Yeah, I'm going to be here behind my computer just in case somebody calls in.
There you go. Any exciting projects you guys are working on?
I think that the most exciting thing that we do is really build our team. And so we're constantly working on that. We're adding folks, we're training folks, we're educating folks. So that's a continual and very exciting project for me.
Awesome, man. Very cool. I'm going to be doing the same thing this weekend, man. It's a nice opportunity to catch up on some things that need to be done. The idea that nobody is going to need me or demand me for 3 days is a pretty exciting thing, man.
Little respite, yeah.
How long have you been having an entrepreneurial journey?
Oh man, forever. I want to say that the first time I realized that I was an entrepreneur was when the ATF was knocking on my door, telling me I had to stop.
I just realized. Tell everybody what the ATF is, just in case.
Oh, the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
How did you rile those guys up?
So here's what happened.
Had a bunch of cigarettes out back.
I was making my own in the back. No. So I actually ended up finding out at the time that absinthe was illegal in the United States.
Wow.
And I couldn't really understand why it was illegal.
Is it still?
It's not anymore because they've kind of changed it. So back then it was illegal, but selling collectible bottles that happened to have absinthe in them wasn't as illegal. And so
wait, hold on. I noticed I'm a big stickler for language, and I noticed how you said wasn't as illegal.
That's right. The disclaimers were always in place, which is why I'm not in jail right now. And it was always a situation where I was just selling this beautiful collectible bottle with this really intricate, like ornate design on it. And it happens to have this cool liquid in it, but don't drink the liquid. Don't drink.
Yeah, that's illegal. That would be bad.
We don't want to do that. No liquid
do
drinking. Exactly. And from that point on, I just realized that there's a handful of things about being an entrepreneur that I absolutely love. One of them is that excitement of doing something new and seeing it work. hey, I sold a bottle today. I sold 10 bottles. Oh, I sold a whole bunch of bottles. Oh, ATF. All right, that didn't work. And then trying something else and continuing to grow and see successes. I think it's a drug.
I completely agree. It reminds me of well, before I tell you a similar story, I'm going to ask you this. What changed about absinthe that allows it to be sold now? And how long ago was that, if you don't mind
Yeah.
me busting
So
it open?
no, it's okay. I'm older. Wait, I'm not as old as you think I am. I just look older. It was in 2002-ish, so it was about 22 years ago.
Okay.
The thing that made absinthe less illegal is that they changed the wormwood concentration. So wormwood's the thing that gives you that hallucinogenic
Mm.
experience. And so now they manufacture it with less, and because it's got less, it's okay to be sold now.
So I have had absinthe, which is part of
Mhm.
why I was like, well, hold on now. Is it still? But I have not had hallucinogenic experiences
Mhm.
on absinthe. So have you? And what the hell? Surely not while you were selling all those
No,
bottles that were full of it.
I only looked at the bottles. They were decorative, they were ornate. I
What
had
do
them up
they
on
say
different
the
shelves.
experience is like?
Actually, no, no lie. I never actually tried it. Uh,
Interesting.
the only time that I tried absinthe was probably 5 or 6 years ago,
Okay.
and it was because there was a beetle in the bottle, and somebody said, "Hey, you got to try this," and it was disgusting, and I didn't
Beetle in the
think
bottle.
it was hallucinogenic. Yes, like a like a
There's a literal beetle.
like a beetle. It was disgusting, and it tasted awful, and we lit
Why
it
in
on
the
fire.
world? Why would that be like the selling point that the beetle's in there?
I don't know. I think it was from, like, some Eastern European country, and there must have been
Mm,
some significance behind the beetle.
got it.
Yeah, yeah.
I lived in Salt Lake City for a little bit, and there's this wonderful, wonderful restaurant that is one of my favorites ever. But people will laugh because it is a not very fancy restaurant. It's called Nacho Daddy, and it's like specifically about gourmet nachos, and they have a shot with a scorpion in it. It kind of reminds me of that. Oh no, I think we may be having some. Well, we may be having some issues with David's connectivity there. Oh, we got him back super fast.
Oh my gosh, sorry about that. So I
No,
heard the
no.
thing that I think I needed to hear. Nacho Daddy
Yep.
shot with a
Scorpion
scorpion in
shot.
it. Heck yeah, that sounds like a great time.
It is a great time, man. And nachos to boot. What more do
Seriously.
you need, man? Just like a view of the mountains. Done.
Perfect. Can we just change this to talk about nachos the whole time?
This is the interview part, man.
Okay,
Everybody's getting to
okay.
know how you became an entrepreneur here.
Oh, yes, yes. All right, so here's an entrepreneurial idea that I've had.
Okay.
Obviously, everybody knows about Chipotle. There's
Oh
some
yeah.
other things that have been cropping up like that. But what I want to do is like a mashed potato bar to the max. So I want you to be able to come in, get a base of like either sweet potato mashed potatoes, regular mashed potatoes. I say regular, but like, nice and delicious, creamy
Now you
mashed
put some
potatoes.
cream cheese in those bad boys.
Yeah, get like a whole bunch of different bases and then have the,
I meant
the
to
whole
say
like
sour
bacon
cream.
bar. Oh, so, oh, I was
I don't know
gonna
if I've
say
ever had cream
cream cheese
cheese.
sounds
And
good.
yeah, we'll see.
Why
I'll
not?
send you. We'll get crazy on Sunday, and I'll let you know.
I like it. But just imagine if you could like Chipotle style a
Yeah.
mashed potato bar, where you could be like, yeah, throw some cheese on it, put it under the salamander, get it nice and crispy, like
What if you
and
had
then
baked
nice.
potatoes too?
Yeah. Oh
Just a
yeah.
bunch. It's just potatoes
Just a
galore.
salt
You
potato.
fries,
Yeah.
mashed potatoes,
Yes.
so you're at the front. You're like, well, burrito bowl or burrito, tacos?
Right.
No, no, no. Baked potato.
Baked potato, mashed potato. Which type of mashed potato? Which type of baked potato? Okay, I like this. I think
What's
we're
your
on
favorite
something.
kind of potato?
My favorite type of potato. Oh man. I don't know. And if
You
my
strike
mom's
me as a
watching,
russet kind of guy.
I think so. I think so. It's whatever my mom makes for Thanksgiving mashed potatoes. Like
Oh
that's my
yeah,
favorite.
that's my
Yeah, I
favorite.
don't know what potato it is, but it's it's the one.
I'm going to tell you one quick goofy story, and then I'm going to ask you
Yes.
more questions about your entrepreneurial journey. Not that I haven't been goofy already. So, your story about the ATF rolling up and saying, "Hey, come on,"
Right.
reminds me of a kind of similar story that I had when I was a young man. So, I was always just a I have always been and still am a diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So when I was a young man, I always wanted to have the jerseys so that I could make sure that everybody knew how I felt.
Mhm.
God forbid
Mhm.
anybody didn't know how I felt.
Mhm.
Um, so they were expensive, and we weren't always having money to throw around at expensive jerseys and stuff. So
Mhm.
my mom got creative, and we found a really great way to get them for really, really. You're smiling. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm in. Keep going.
To get them for really cheap. And
Mhm.
then I remember having this Christmas or birthday or whatever the hell, and I'm like, oh my god, Troy Polamalu, oh my god, Heinz Ward, I'm going through it, and then afterwards I was like, oh my god, how did you? What the
Yeah,
heck,
yeah.
And then fast forward a little bit, uh, I've got a cease and desist letter from the NFL.
Oh, no.
You can't sell our jerseys, man. I was selling
Yeah,
them on. I was and same type of deal, It's
yeah.
a little illegal here, but what an experience! Sell a jersey. Oh, sell 10 jerseys.
That's
You know,
fantastic.
it was same, man.
All right, so related question, did you ever sell any of the knockoff jerseys to buy a real jersey?
No, man. I still buy the knockoffs.
Okay, okay,
I
okay,
still buy the knockoffs for
okay.
myself because it's like
Yeah,
they
yeah,
look pretty good, and
okay.
it's like 10% the cost.
I like that.
10%
Yeah.
is nice. If you could go get knockoff Chipotle for 10% the cost, you'd never go to Chipotle again. You know what I'm saying?
That's probably true. It's
It's
probably true.
100% true.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Mm.
the ATF rolled up,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you were like, "All right, well, we got to shut this one down.
Mhm.
Let me text my accountant." But then, what was the next step?
Oh, next step with that or
Your
next comment?
entrepreneurial journey. You don't have to.
Ooh,
We don't have to
okay.
talk legals.
Okay, right, right. So let's see. After that, I feel like it was a lot of flipping, to the same end as the knockoff stuff. I was doing a lot of like buying of electronics or, cell phones or things like that, and then selling them on whichever, marketplace had the best return. So kind of more like an arbitrage deal than anything else, where I was buying from one marketplace for less than it was on the other marketplace, and capturing whatever it was in the difference.
Using your intel, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think those types of things always have existed. If you think about trade, and I'm
Mhm,
like kind of a history nerd, but if you think about trade before you could sell things online, you would have somebody go to like
mhm,
a nearby village where they're like,
mhm,
"We are making shirts,"
mhm,
buy a
mhm,
bunch of shirts, and they're like, "Well, we got all the shirts. Supply here
mhm.
is up, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
demand is stable. So here's the price." And then nobody else has a shirt, and here you go. So that's always been a way to go about it. Did you ever have like a real, when I say real, entrepreneurship is a real job, but have you 100% of your career been an entrepreneur, or have you
Oh, no.
started and then, well, give us the
Yeah.
whole thing, man.
No,
Tell
no, no,
us your
yeah.
story.
So a lot of the entrepreneurial stuff up until the last couple of years has been just side stuff, the fun things. About 15 or 16 years ago, I got in with recruiting. And that gave me an opportunity to meet a lot of people, to learn a lot of things about specific ways that things were done. Hey, this is a manufacturing process. This is, this drafting process, this technical thing that was happening. And I needed to be able to know enough to be able to, assess somebody else's skills. And so I had done that for a while, really enjoyed that because, I'm a people person. I like to talk to people.
Where did
And
that
then,
come from for you? Because you support MSPs, right?
yeah.
And most IT service providers have tons of strengths. And
Mhm.
I would say if you were to put all those strengths on a distribution board, uh, people the way that you're outgoing in terms of being highly communicative and able to read people with depth is not generally at the high side of the list.
Mm.
So you have a important skill in a segment that is not used very often. Where did it come from? Because I think people probably are like, "Fuck, man, I wish I could talk to people like David."
I appreciate that. Should I lay down on a couch? I feel like I'm gonna
You
get into
can
some,
if
like,
you
really
want,
deep
man.
psychological
You
stuff here.
start playing that guitar in the back too.
Right,
Sing me a tune, man, or strum me a tune.
so, I think that, getting pretty deep here, I think the answer is that I've always kind of been the goofy one, and I think that that comes from the family dynamics. People would call it quirky, people would call it whatever they might call it, but that combined with the fact that I'm not a small guy, I'm not a massive guy, I'm, a little bit over 6 foot tall, and I've always been in that 250, 260 pound range, so, pretty
A
decent sized
dog.
guy.
Great
Yeah,
day.
I'm an all right sized guy. And so now you've got this, goofy person in this like bigger sized body. And I think that because of that, I've had to kind of understand when that's okay and when it's not okay. Figure out when I'm, maybe being too imposing, when I'm not. And I think that over time, over, the entirety of my life, that's kind of honed itself into this desire to be goofy, but kind of knowing how to read the room.
I really like that. So I like to think in my Domino's life, in my operations life in restaurant world, I had to be similarly empathetic to people and understand
Mhm.
where people are at in their position because I had to try to get them to go to a different point most of the time
Mhm.
as a somebody that's overseeing other managers being able to say like, all right, I kind of need you to
Mhm.
behave differently. You have to approach that gently. So
Mhm.
when I hear you describe, I'm a little bit imposing. I'm kind of a bigger guy. I've got some experience in entrepreneurship for a long time. I'm going to ad lib here, and you can correct me.
Yeah.
I've put people off before, or made people uncomfortable, and I had to learn
Mhm.
how to like balance that and not have
Mhm.
that happen. And I've been in the same spot, if I read
Mhm.
that properly.
Mhm.
I certainly have myself. The fact that you've chosen, because a lot of people choose. I had a conversation with somebody about this yesterday. Some people choose to carry their strengths over other people, right?
Mm.
I'm a big guy.
Mhm.
I'm experienced communicating. I'm funny. I can kind of like give people a little jab, and and
Well,
people will use that to like, I'm bigger, you're
mhm.
uncomfortable, I'm comfortable. And what I
Mhm.
hear you saying is, I did not like other people being uncomfortable, so I went out of
Mhm.
my way to make jokes or be goofy or quirky, not
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
you may not actually feel goofy on the inside all the time, but you may recognize like, I'll make a little joke here, and I can allow them to be their real self. And I think that that's amazing, man, because we
Yeah.
need more leadership like that
Yeah.
in the world in general, and in especially the IT space, because there's a lot of
Mhm.
holding knowledge over others, and it's like, well, wait a second, let's all just
Right.
figure out how to
I
how to
like that.
so I've that's my analysis. I mean, where
I
am I off
lo
and where am I right?
I love it. Somebody actually told me not too long ago that I was like, oh my gosh, I can't remember the coach's name in Mighty Ducks, Emilio Estevez's character. What was his name? It wasn't Gordon. It was Gordon. No, it was Gordon. Do you remember the Mighty Ducks?
I remember it, but I'm so
Okay.
bad with like remembering pieces of movies,
Shoot,
unless
I
it's one
don't.
I've seen a million times.
Gordon Bombay. It just came to me.
Nice.
So Gordon Bombay was the coach, and there's this scene
Good
where
name.
he tells everybody to pass these eggs back and forth with their hockey sticks. And so they're on the ice, and
Mm.
he's trying to teach everybody how to like lightly glide and get the eggs between each player, without it breaking. And the first time that somebody said that to me, it blew my mind. I was like, holy crap, that's me. That's my goal. I want to, softly, gently get that egg in the goal and not break any of them. And in the business world, sometimes it's really hard. Uh, Sometimes it's not. And we'll see if we can continue to be successful without breaking too many eggs.
Yeah, cool, man. Cool.
Yeah.
So, where were we in your journey
Oh,
with your
uh,
career? Because I
so
took a sidetrack there, and thank you for going with me on
no,
that. But
of course.
you were saying you've always been a quirky, goofy person,
Uh-huh,
which I
uh-huh.
think is a probably a a view on many other personal characteristics, but you've put that forward for people in business, which
Mhm.
made you great for sales and marketing and networking. And that's where you were. Keep rolling.
Okay, so I was recruiting and I was
Recruiting.
learning a
That's right.
lot about a lot of different things. And what I really wanted to do was learn a lot about one thing because I knew that if I could put all of this information in my brain and have it be specific, it could be better. And so I ended up at a role with Matt, my co-founder, who took a leap of faith in hiring me. We ended up at this company together that was selling the widgets that went into data centers. And I learned as much as I possibly could about those widgets. And because I was laser focused on one thing, I learned a lot. And that gave me the opportunity to grow within the organization and ultimately start leading the global tech support organization. So that was where I was for the last just about a decade before starting Helped. And then Helped came from that, but that's a different story.
Well, tell us a little bit of that story now,
Oh my
because it's
gosh.
a part of the journey, and that'll be good. That'll be good lead into the customer experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Before you tell us about the
Mhm.
transition from Helped, you were in an org for 10 years. I'll ask you this.
Mhm.
Over that 10 years, I imagine you saw growth and scale happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
What were the biggest hurdles in that 10 years as it related to building and scaling something that was ultimately successful that you were a part of at a high level?
I mean, I think I could sum it up to one word, and it's communication. I think that was the biggest hurdle when it came to almost every obstacle. When we went into a situation where we were trying to grow a team and the communication just wasn't on par, if we weren't managing the projects that we were doing appropriately with the right communication, it would get a little bit cluster fe. If it was something where it became an announcement out to a team, or when it became some really integral part of what we were doing, it all boiled down to issues with communication. If we could have done the communication piece better, we would have gotten to where we got a lot sooner than we did. So I think one word: communication.
I'm glad you gave me more than actually one word though, because I
Uh,
was about to be like, okay, all right, yeah.
that's it.
Um, what makes for good communication, man?
Oh man. All right. Transparency.
Mm,
Transparency, honesty. I mean, this is coming from me, who just told you a couple minutes ago that I like to, not be imposing, and I like to be goofy, and I like to be quirky, and I like all these things.
yeah.
But I realized that there's no reason to play, 4D chess with a team member or a colleague. There's no reason to not be transparent. And I think that good communication comes from that. And I also think that good communication comes from,
Can I interrupt before you go to the
yeah,
next
yeah,
thing?
no, no.
Um,
Yeah.
why would you ever lie to your team? You know
Oh
what I mean?
man.
It's like
Yeah,
they're gonna push the boulder with you, and you're
sure.
gonna play against them. That doesn't seem like a very good. It's like the opening shift and night shift hating each other, and
Right.
like doing shit to It's like you want to be able to be authentic with your team.
Yeah. And so I think that that's a really great question. Of course, you don't want to lie to your team. And I think that if you don't subscribe to this idea of being transparent, then you're going to end up lying by omission to your team. And so I think there are times where somebody will come to you directly and say something like, "Hey, I see that you're hiring for this role, but it's kind of like my role. What's going on here?" And you can either say, "Oh, well, it's because we don't like you and we're going to replace you," or you could say something like, "Hey, we're working towards this other thing." And I'm not saying either one is better than the other. I'm just saying whatever the true intention is, be as transparent as you can.
Well, and in those types of scenarios where you're like, geez, we need to hire for somebody else, there would have been, at least in my world, and I imagine in yours as well,
Mhm.
many conversations about behavior and improvement and expectations. And well, many is maybe wrong, but sufficient
Mhm. Mhm.
conversations about like this, these are the expectations.
Mhm.
And um, at that point, like once you've identified, okay, this person may not be behaving like a team member.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, if you've got a wolf in the hen house, you don't go up to the wolf and say, "Well, let me be honest." Like you're like, "No, get." let's go,
Right,
dude. Like,
sure.
it's time to get out. This isn't a team member. You're not a hen. There's
Yeah,
no eggs coming out of you. You're
yeah,
killing my hens. You're running off my good people and my good customers.
yeah.
And those people, once you've identified that, right, you have to take the time to
Mhm.
identify. But once you've done that, then it's get the wolf out of the hen house.
With the right communication that you're talking about, maybe it's a performance improvement plan, maybe it's setting new objectives or goals for that team member, and then maybe it's them not achieving those things. And you say, "Hey, Wolf, we had been talking about this for the last couple of months. It looks like you haven't been improving. Here's the document that you signed that said that you understood because we communicated that clearly to you. And now, sorry, then we get the shotgun out, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You said something that was kind of like as Dean always says, dramatic foreshadowing. He said expectations. That's the next piece of this whole puzzle, as far as I'm concerned. You can communicate to somebody. You can say, "Hey, Zach, I'll be on your podcast," and you start immediately expecting that I'll be there. But then if I don't show up, you're like, "Dang it, what?" So it becomes a thing where it's like, "Hey, when we make a commitment, when we set an expectation, we have to do literally everything that we possibly can to achieve that, or else, what good are we? If we say, 'Hey, I'm going to do this thing,' and we don't do it, then you're somebody that can't execute on that." And so I think it's really important to set expectations, meet expectations.
I couldn't agree with that more. I think that's really well said. And your behavior quite literally is the reflection of who you are in your stats. If you're the person that doesn't show up, then you're the person who doesn't show up. If you're the person that doesn't show up once, but they communicated ahead of time, they gave you sufficient time to it's like there's all these different pieces of it that are related to behavior, because life is not uh, black and white, but
Yeah.
intention is important as well.
I've been working on this. I'm giving a little talk a couple weeks from now, TechCon Unplugged.
Woo!
I just plugged TechCon Unplugged, and I've been working on this talk where I want to start it off with a question that kind of leads us down that path of considering our expectations. And the question is, and I know everybody will say yes to this: has somebody ordered something off of Amazon recently? Right?
Yes.
And the answer
Me.
is like, yeah, absolutely. Like, of course I did. Did you get it immediately? Did it literally just like materialize
No.
in front of your eyes?
No.
No. But you weren't upset that didn't happen. Why weren't you upset that didn't happen?
Because I know
Because
what to expect, and they make it really clear. And
exactly.
this resonates with me, and this might be good timing to
Mm,
transition into the customer
mm,
experience. But
mhm,
it also might be well. Anyway, so in my world, in Domino's, and my
mhm,
world has expanded significantly since then. But in some of the depth of my world in Domino's, some of the things I really had to deal with consistently, and especially through COVID, man. And I'll touch on that in a second. But Domino's tries to do the same thing as Amazon, where you're
mhm.
letting people know, here's your tracker,
Tracker.
here's
Mhm,
how long it's going to take, here's
mhm,
here's where it is. And we would even go out of our way to ensure to train team members to be
mhm,
very, very communicative. I was talking about this with a friend the other day. Also, I had on Tuesday or Monday, I got a flat, and I have a type of car that doesn't have, it has unique tires, so I had to get it towed and take care of it at a different place instead of just
What kind
fixing
of
it.
car do you have, Zach?
I have a Honda Civic Type R.
Oh,
So it's
okay,
not
gotcha.
too crazy, but it's got the
But
low
it
profile tires,
got
and you're not going to put a 40-pound tire in the back because you're going for
got
lightweight or whatever, even though I have a 40-pound sub in the back. But that's more fucking important than the damn
of course,
tire.
of course.
I use the subs all day. I only use the tire once in
Seriously.
6 years.
There you go.
The guy, I'm on the phone with Geico or whomever, and they're like, "Oh, it's going to be an hour." I'm like, all right, well, I'll sit here for an hour, no problem, whatever. And the guy shows up in 25 minutes. I'm like, all right, fuck
It's
yeah.
fantastic.
This is the
Yeah.
best flat tire I've ever had in my life. And
Mhm.
we would tell all this is not necessarily a Domino's thing. This is a me thing. So anybody that's out there, don't quote me necessarily on this as a Domino's thing. But I would recommend to my team, we have this feeling of like, well, I want them to think we're good. I want them to
Mhm.
think we're good. So
Mhm.
we'll say it's going to be fast. It's going to be
Yeah.
20 minutes.
Mhm. Mhm.
don't do that shit. Tell them it's going to be 40 and deliver it in
Yeah.
22. Don't tell them it's going to be 20 and it gets there at 22, because then they're like, well, these motherfuckers got it 2 minutes late.
Yep.
Or they got it there 18 minutes early. It's all about the expectation setting. And if they expect it in 25 minutes, and in COVID, because you have one driver and you're delivering in 2 hours and it gets there in 2 hours, they're yelling at the driver, they're calling the store, and it's a miserable experience for everybody involved. But if you set that expectation ahead of time, like, hey, look, we're at an hour and a half to 2 hours right now. If you pick it up, I'll go half off for you. I'm sorry. We can take care of you. We want, but then they're like, no problem. 2 hours is cool as long as it's hot, and everybody's happy. And it's what you said. It's expectation setting.
I have a very topical story because it literally just happened a couple of days ago. We have a client that came to us that wanted help with just being frontline triage, just picking up the phone, letting their customers know that somebody was on the issue. And we engaged, and we took the wait time from the phone call from like 45 minutes down to less than 3 or 4 minutes. And people started calling in and saying, wow, this is amazing. The first couple of days or weeks of that, it was like, this is incredible. This is really great. And then things started getting to that point where it was like, wait, I was on the phone for 5 minutes waiting. Why did it take so long? And so as humans, we just naturally adapt into that and say, okay, like that's my expectation now. Like I know that it's going to be 4 to 5 minutes now. And if it's 6, I'm in trouble. And so the solution to that, the fix to that, was that the greeting now on that queue very clearly and explicitly states what's going on. And just that resets that expectation. Like, okay, hey, if it takes only 10 minutes this time, that's great, because they said it's going to take up to 15. So I'm totally with you. I love the idea of setting those expectations and exceeding them.
Oh, exceeding is my favorite. Well, let's officially transition, I guess, over to owning the customer experience. You guys do a hell of a job owning the customer experience, and we'll dive into that in some detail. But before we get into how you guys do it with specialty, we've got entrepreneurs or future entrepreneurs thinking about how they're going to be able to do it. So let's if they don't choose to work with you guys, what the hell is the customer experience? It's from a broad, high level perspective.
Holy smokes. It's literally every single engagement that they're going to have with you.
Just with the people?
With you as a company, as a brand, as a product, as a service, as a whatever. It's starting from the first email that you send out, trying to get their interest. It ends with, I guess it never ends, because it's constantly needing to be refined. It's constantly something that we need to improve so that we can have the best experience for everybody. I think that the owning the customer experience, the title that you came up with, I think it's perfect. I think it comes.
Wasn't a good marketing title though. I got to do better on that.
Oh no! Well, maybe we'll do another like series or something.
I got a workshop.
So owning it is truly, and I know that this is kind of tough in this day and age to say to somebody, hey, like you have to own this entire perspective, because you don't know what that is. But you can define what we assume it is, and then we can refine based on what we experience. So what I mean by all of that is that I used to have a boss that used to say, hey, I know what good looks like, and this isn't good. And it's like, well, is that on paper somewhere? Like, what is this good that you talk about? Like can you give me some defined expectations?
Because I'll do it.
I'll do it. And so one of the big things that we always pitch is this idea of mapping that, of having that whole like customer journey, that whole experience just listed, so that we can know where things might be falling apart. And so I know you asked the simple question of what is that? Owning it is literally everything. Anytime that somebody thinks about Zach or thinks about David, we have to be able to, I know, right? Yeah, right. It's Zach and David. We have to be able to have some understanding of what they're seeing, and then maybe tweak that to control the narrative a little bit. I know that this is super esoteric and I'm not getting too deep into
No.
stuff,
Well,
but
entrepreneurs need to be able to get esoteric. If you're an entrepreneur and you can't close your mind and picture something or take
Mhm,
somebody's, and I'm not, you may struggle and you may grow into it, but you should be able to conceptualize other people's words because, I mean, quite literally, the act of entrepreneurship is creating a business out of nothing.
mhm,
So if you want to be able to effectively create something out of nothing, you're going to need to be able to conceptualize the ideas and put them together.
yeah,
So you touched on a point that I wanted to ask a question on. You talked about how as the business owner,
mhm,
you need to be able to have a reflective moment or
mhm,
moments or a
mhm,
process for reflection
mhm,
as it relates to the experience that the customer is having.
mhm,
Very broad. Customer experience is big. So if
mhm,
I'm like starting to own the customer experience,
mhm.
what part of my customer experience and how do I go about measuring it? You know, there's like undercover
Yeah.
boss, but we're not going to do undercover boss with every medium, small, and
Mhm.
startup business. So, what the hell does that look like for managing costs and starting?
So, I think that that list that I was speaking of is literally something that I have. I have it on slides. I call it the customer journey, and it's the
You
customer
might be
journey
able to
mapping.
share slides if you mean you've got them right in front of you now.
Oh my gosh,
If
I
if
do.
well, you can feel free, man. I'm not gonna.
All right, let's see what happens. If this explodes the screen, then it's
God, if
not
it explodes
my
the screens, I'll
fault.
really wish I found my glasses.
Can you guys see that? Or can you see that?
Oh man, yeah. Hold on, I
Oh,
gotta
yeah, hold
click.
on. Let me see if I can move it into like
No, we got
this
it. I
one.
think I think
You
I
got
had
it?
to click. I just had to give
Okay.
the old thumbs up. And look, I'm even gonna freaking put our handsome asses up here. You see that shit? Look at us.
Shoot, look at that. All right, wait, 2024. So this list that I just mentioned a couple minutes ago, this becomes so much more than these 10 bullet points. But by starting at each one of these bullet points, we can start to see what it looks like from our customer side. Personas. We're going to define who that customer is, right? And see through their eyes. Let's talk about Domino's. I'm an avid
Do it.
Domino's guy. I love
That
Domino's.
stuffed
Like
cheese bread. Oh, you
what
kidding me?
ab- what about us makes us somebody that would want to get Domino's?
It's the
And
beards.
it's probably the beards. It's probably the beards. So being able to define that and to understand what that is, like that's the first step in this whole journey and this whole map that we're going to put out in front of ourselves. The next thing is communication guidelines. I know this sounds kind of crazy, but like, hey, we're guys with beards. You don't want an email that says we sell pizza to guys without beards. Like get the beardless pizza, like whatever it is. We don't want that. And
Yeah.
so we have to think about, all right, what type of communication are we going to use to target that particular persona? And so that's the next step. Onboarding process. This one, it's really easy to think about. Hey, if I've just sold this thing to this person or I'm bringing them onto my processes, I can actually test that myself. Why not? If I send out an automated email that says, hey, welcome to the team, I should be able to send it to myself and see what it looks
Yeah.
like and really understands what it is that's happening.
Can
Next
I
one.
pause you right there?
Yeah, of course. I could keep going. Yeah.
So we just launched TriUnity Strategies, just launched this week a leadership and skills development program. And
Mhm,
onboarding in my Domino's world and for this is extremely important.
mhm,
Onboarding is different in those two worlds, but it's related to onboarding team members, which is
mhm,
still a perception thing because you're
mhm,
bringing an individual that's outside of the organization into the
mhm,
organization, which
mhm,
is if you're a customer, you're still bringing a customer into the organization. Now you're a part of this,
yeah,
it was so vital in the Domino's world to do the proper expectation setting, the proper
mhm,
communication. It was
mhm,
vital that they got to meet a bunch of different people. It was vital that they got to
mhm,
learn where things were. It was
mhm,
vital that there was time set aside for them.
mhm,
Um, and that was extremely important. And Domino's, which is a couple to a few $1 billion company,
mhm,
invested tons and tons and tons of money and R&D into Are we going to get our team members to show up to the onboarding reliably? And are they going to go from that onboarding to their first shift reliably? And are they going to go from that first shift to the end of their first 2 weeks reliably? And are they going to make it to 180 days reliably? And each one of those different buckets had intentional focus, conscious attention, and consideration. And I recognize the slight difference in terms of team member versus customer, but the idea of this is an important, valuable asset that we want to maintain. Now I'm in this world where, I'm launching this program and tons of it is online. And I have to be very thoughtful and considerate of, here's my first cohort. This is what it feels like for them to go through it. This is what it feels like for them to get access. This is what it feels like for them to deal with the damn NDA and the email. And I want to be in the content. I want to see it. And it's and getting that boiled down in a way and being thoughtful enough and able to look at, some people don't like to look at their flaws. Being able to look and be like, oh, this was too slow. Oh, this we missed. We took, made a mistake. Oh, there were errors here. And being able to honestly look at and address and then improve is so freaking important. So thank you for letting me tangent slightly there. But onboarding, man,
it's huge.
You got to do
it. This is where we set those expectations, right? We were talking about that for 20 minutes. This is an opportunity for us to say, here's this process that we're going to take you through. And what you see from us now is going to be the thing that you should expect to see from us in the future. And I know it sounds funny, I've heard of different companies that make this huge, like painful process so that people can see how developed and mature they are. Hey, you're onboarding with us because it takes this long to do this. It means we have this much value to you.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but
at all.
What you said about intention, hey, this is where we're being intentional about the way that we're doing these things, and start setting an expectation and start taking those people into the next couple of steps. Should I keep going?
Rocking. Yeah. Tangent achieved.
No.
We're back.
And stop me for more.
No,
okay.
Do your thing, dude.
So support and escalation procedures. That's one of those things that hopefully is something that's explained during the onboarding process. Hey, here's this thing that you just signed up for, this product, this service, this whatever. And here's the steps that you're going to take if you need some support or if you need to get urgent support, whatever it might be. And so support and escalation procedures, having those defined during the onboarding process, and then having those be things that are easy to access, that are responsive, that are integrated in the process some way, somehow, super important. Hey, I just bought this widget from you. It's this rad widget, but I just broke it. I'm either going to throw it away because I couldn't get support to fix it, or I'm going to call you and I'm going to have an awesome support experience. I'm going to go, dang, every time I buy this widget, I'm going to buy it from these guys. Support and escalation. Feedback's the next one. We have to get feedback.
What does good feedback look like?
Honest, transparent, crazy, tearing us down type feedback.
No, don't tear down. Let me throw.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, throw.
So I in the restaurant industry, a lot of the time you have people into early stage management roles who are excellent doers. So they're seen for their doing, but doing and managing are two different skills. A lot of the times good doers have the intrinsic motivation and willingness to execute, which allows them to be taught how to manage. But in the early stages of managing, especially in the restaurant industry, there are opportunities and improvement of delivery as it relates to all these things in management in general. Now, feedback is really important because if you want to manage effectively, you've got to be able to tell people what they need to do better. Yeah. Now, in the early stages of my career managing people, I was, oh man, I'm going to be transparent here and I'm going to be honest. I was the baseball player who demanded the best out of their team. And I was loud and I barked and I worked my ass off. I backed it up, right? But I gave feedback in the way that you described that was probably more aggressive than it needed to be. Now, fast forward into my first rotation or second rotation, I guess, technically, or maybe it was even anyway, I was running a store in Salt Lake City, and I had a young lady who was a great person, not and a hard worker, but not super consistent. And I was at a point in my life that I was particularly stressed, and I delivered some feedback to her that was not optimal. And what her choice was is to pick her store key up and to freaking ninja star it at my face, which I thought was a reasonable reaction after the fact. But in the moment, I was stunned, like I got ninja starred in the face. But I had given feedback like an asshole. Yeah. Now, I saw many folks into my time where I became good at giving feedback also struggle with it because it's hard. And the reason it's hard is because you're scared that they're going to take it the wrong way and that you're going to get into an altercation. And that fear elevates your body's reactivity and puts you in a position to where you're likely to make a mistake because you're reactive and you're elevated and it's stressful. And, what if I hope they don't, what if they quit? What if they, and it's this stressful situation. But you've got to be able to give feedback unless you just want your team to walk all over you. So how do you do it? I love to give this tip. And this is from a mentor of mine named Kelly. And she was amazing leader. She told me, ask them if they're ready for some feedback. Give them the choice. And then they're open. Like, hey, are you open to some feedback? No, I've had a flat tire. I've got X, Y, and Z, and all these other things. If you give me some feedback right now, I'm going to ninja star my key at your face. Right. Or I'm absolutely ready. And that takes all of the charge out of the entry and allows you to then give feedback. Now, then if you're like, all right, thank you for letting me give feedback. I think you're a stupid fuck. Well, then that doesn't work, right? But you've got to handle it well from there, right? But it opens up the conversation to being able to give feedback. So there's a little tip I like to give as relates to feedback.
It seems so simple, but the second you said it, I was like, holy moly, I should start saying that. Are you open to feedback? And then provide that feedback. Thank you. I'm going to go.
For sure, man. And if they say no, you're going to get people say no. And if you're responsible for somebody and they say no, no problem. When do you want to chat?
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, now you've agreed. And when that time comes around, you'll be ready. And here it comes.
Ready. And keep all of your keys away from you so that you don't get. Never mind.
Big keys too, man. And she'd stretched a lot of pizzas, so that she was good. Wow.
The wrist strength. So I think that in this little chart, the feedback might be coming from the customer, and then we have an opportunity to train based on that feedback our agents or the people that are supporting or the people that are producing or the people that are giving that service. And I think that being able to train based on that feedback, and I'm trying to think about bringing it back to an agent or somebody that was there doing the thing, whatever that was,
part of the operation that needs to
part of the operation. That training could be something where it's like, hey, that weld is a certain millimeter too thick, or, the tolerance isn't right. We need to fix that for this product. Or it could be, the way that you made that pizza was wrong. It wasn't to standard.
The rim is too thick.
Exactly. And so we have to ingest it. We have to always be ready. And I know that that's not quite ask the question if you're ready, but we have to be ready when it comes to the customer experience for that feedback to come anytime and be ready to train based on it. One of the things that I do, and I think that I get chastised for this at times, is that, I fall on the sword immediately. Feedback. Hey, you took 32 minutes to get me my pizza instead of 30. What happened? Oh, I'm so sorry. That's it. Like falling, I'm on the sword. I've impaled myself. The reality is that customer has that experience. They see that thing and they want to know why we didn't live up to our expectation. And so then I can train based on that feedback, and I can either say, hey guys, stop saying it's going to be 30 minutes. It's going to be 40, and then we can hit it. Or I can say, hey, what part of this process took that much longer so that we didn't hit what we said was an expectation? Training based on feedback. Account management. This is, I don't know why this is the hardest thing to do in a lot of environments, but
where are we now?
Account management, second line. Yeah,
I got it. I'm with us. Thanks.
So account management is one of those things where it seems so simple. Like, hey, we should send out surveys. Hey, we should check in on our customers. Hey, we should open the forum to get that feedback. But it's like, I'm busy making sure that the service or the product or the widget or the whatever is working as intended. I don't really focus on this very much.
Yeah.
But we have to look at it as going into that customer and saying to them, hey, how are things going? We get the feedback. We get an opportunity to upsell, cross-sell, and retain, right? We're checking in. If they're angry, get the feedback, we fix it, we retain them. If they're happy and they want us to do more, awesome. We get this opportunity to upsell them into something else that we could potentially do for them. So account management, huge, super easy to fall by the wayside. Next one, measuring with metrics and KPIs. I'm sure Matt's watching this. Yeah, KPIs.
I'm going to, on account management, you said it's super easy to let it fall by the wayside. The reason it's super easy is because it's just cost.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not doing something because it's just cost, like if you don't buy insurance for your whatever because, well, it's just cost, then you have a problem that you wish you would have spent the expenditure on. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you don't take the time to manage your accounts, you're going to lose clients and you're not going to get enough feedback, which is going to mean that your business grows too slowly.
Yeah. In customer success managers and people that are account managers, they get spiffed and bonused on increasing the revenue opportunity, the engagement with the customer. And so it's a cost and it's seen as a cost, but it could really be something that opens a lot of doors. It's still tough. Still tough. Yeah. Measuring metrics, KPIs. This is one of those things where, I say this probably 3 or 4 times a month. You can't really improve a process until you understand what's happening. And so you have to be able to measure and you have to be able to put your key performance indicators down on paper and say, as long as we're hitting these things, then we're in a good place. And we have to measure that and we have to hold ourselves accountable to that. And that's also a tough thing. Yeah.
What's Help's most important KPI as it relates to satisfying their customers or their customers' customers?
Agent satisfaction, agent morale.
That's smart.
I mean, our focus is providing that service to our customer's customer. And if our agents are frustrated, if they're burnt out, if they're having a bad day, then they're not going to give a good experience.
That's absolutely true. So,
yeah. Secondary, we look at time of calls. We look at how long it takes to pick up the phone. Look at how long it takes to pick up a ticket. We look at all kinds of stuff, but the agent thing is the most important. Tech and tools. Tech and tools is something that, like, in the MSP world, in the entrepreneur world, in the world in general, you might be like, hey, I'm doing this thing and it's frustrating. Let me go Google and see if there's a tool that can fix that for me or make it less frustrating. So then you do, and lo and behold, there's 1,000 SaaS companies that do exactly the thing that you've been trying to do. And so you get it, and you're like, this is sweet, and you use it. And that interaction in itself puts you on a customer journey, but we can talk about that later or not. But then we have to continually
I'll get back for that.
We have to continually look at what we're using, how they're interacting in this whole process. We might have there's account management software to make the account management piece easier. And it sends out emails on a cadence, and it has a booking link and it has a message that you can create. Are those tools being used the right way? Is somebody that is frustrated getting the email saying, hey, hope you're happy, schedule some time with me to chat, are those things really jiving?
Yeah.
And the last thing is continuous improvement. I love this one, so I'm going to throw
Before we go to continuous improvement, I'll throw one thought out there.
Yeah.
MSPs and IT service providers, which I believe is your main focus. Mm-hmm. Is that true? Is that your only focus?
It's not our only focus, but it is our main focus.
Okay, cool. I'll have to ask you about that in the future. So your IT service providers often have tons of tools. Do you have like a quick tool tip for? And no pun intended there with tooltip, but do you have a quick tooltip for these guys?
I mean, I think that the only thing that I would say is review them on a regular basis.
Yeah,
look at what they cost you, look at what they're saving you, look at the things that you've had an issue with. It's really easy to get comfortable with the tool and just be okay with the fact that it doesn't do that one thing. but it's 2024, man. Like, we can go find a thing that does the thing better, guaranteed, period, like end of sentence, but it might cost more. And if it costs more, is it worth it to you? And so I think it comes down to just review your tools on a quarterly basis.
Great. Thank you. Continuous improvement, which I guess maybe you just touched, you teased it.
My favorite thing to say is, I guess it's like a little question, like, what's the biggest room in the world?
Is it outside?
It's the room for improvement.
Oh God. Oh
yeah,
gosh.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that was good.
So one of our ISO guys said that in a meeting, and it absolutely killed, and I've been using it ever since.
I love that you gave credit for it too. I'm all tell him I'm stealing it too.
Yeah, done. I'll send him a message after this. Continuous improvement. It's so easy to think, hey, we're going to continually review this. We're going to continually, look at our metrics. We're going to check our tools, and we're going to do all this stuff. We're going to implement this to a T and go forward. But it's in the vein of improvement. We have to do everything with the intention of improving. Because if we're talking about a customer experience and we're talking about the fact that we provide a service in this IT service provider space, there are a lot of people that are providing the service. So how do you make sure that your service is the best? And I think the answer is just continually improve it, make it better. If somebody comes in and says, hey, I can do this thing better. Can you? Because now that I've reviewed my processes, I've made it better than that, and it becomes a stickiness thing too.
Absolutely, man. Continuous improvement. You should. Blockbuster didn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you just have to be willing to. I mean, really, the reality is this is probably, and this is no critique, right? There's probably a fucking circle here, right? You probably, or maybe some pieces of it are a part of a circle here, but there needs to be a loop of, okay, and how do we get better? Okay, and how do we get better? Because that's life. You're either steadily improving or you're steadily, well, not necessarily steadily. You're either improving or you're declining. And if you're not doing one or the two, you should be doing improving continuously. You better not do the other one continuously, right?
Get busy living or get busy dying, right?
That's it. Yeah. That's it. Give us the helped stuff, man. This was excellent. Tell us all about helped.
Oh man.
So I'll say this. I'll be really transparent with you.
Yeah.
I don't, and take this thing off so we can see our big face. This is big faces. This was wonderful, and thank you for sharing it with everybody.
Of course.
I think that you in particular are a tremendous person. I think helped is an extremely unique approach to a major problem. And we had a conversation before we hopped on here about the level of opportunity as it relates to what you guys are solving. So helped is an amazing idea that I think is going to go very, very far. So I actually want you to give an in-depth about what you guys do, because I don't, I tell everybody to do it, but I think what you guys do is unique and desperately needed by the demographic that you're focused on. So you should give it an in-depth.
Okay. All right. So I left the story off with me saying that corporate job led to helped. The reason why that corporate job led to helped was because I was tasked with providing 24/7 super reactive, super responsive service to the likes of Verizon, Comcast, Charter, these massive multinational, multi-billion-dollar companies. And if we didn't, we would get fined. And they would fine us in a way that was just like irrevocable. It was like, hey, we're just going to send you less money the next time that we send you money for the products that you're providing to us. And it was the craziest thing. And so what happened was I had folks in the US, I had folks in the UK, I even had some folks in India. I had people all over the globe, but I couldn't cover this little gap of time in the 24/7, 365 window. And so I went out to all these different services, and I was looking for somebody that could pick up the phone, that could be professional, that could be friendly, that could deliver a decent customer experience on the front end of whatever issue was going on. And I just had a difficult time finding it. And so I tried a whole bunch of different services that were call answering services, or, fractional support or dedicated support or whatever. And I tried all these things, and I just couldn't find anybody that did what I needed to do in just being that front facing thing, maybe resolve, deflect a few cases, but ultimately let me provide support on my team when I was able. And because I couldn't find that, I said, let's go build that. And so helped is that, I like to say help bridges the gap between your resources and your customers' needs. I don't know if I've said that before. I like that one. So it bridges, right, exactly. It bridges the gap because you're, an IT service provider, or you're a small business, or you're an entrepreneur that's providing this thing. If people are calling in and you have the resources to support that, fantastic. Keep that up. If you need a little bit of a buffer to kind of help, make your employees or your agents a little bit more productive, a little bit morally happy, we can be that, to be the buffer. Yeah, Zach, what do you think?
So here's the thing that I'm going to ask a question that I think I know the answer to, but I want to ask it in the way that's going to allow people to be like, oh, so what if I'm scaling and I have some capacity, but I'm scaling so friggin' fast that me being able to train people, I'm an IT service provider. I know tech like the back of my hand, but these humans, they won't show up on time. How do I deal with them?
Yeah.
But I want to keep the scaling going. Could I utilize your organization and have a certain amount of time and reduce it and split it with my own team over time? Oh my
absolutely.
God, the variability there.
Zach, how amazing. So I'm a tagline guy, apparently. One of our taglines is buy your time. You're literally taking our resources and you're paying for them in exchange for your time.
And it's reliable because that's what you guys do. That's what you're doing.
Because we have a team of people. So you don't have to go out there and interview. You don't have to go out there and hire and cross your fingers and hope they're the right person. Sure, but you don't necessarily have to. And if you're not ready to, that's a huge drain. We want to be that thing that helps you scale. Hey, I don't have enough need for a full-time person, but I do need somebody to grab the phone while I'm taking a shower. Whatever that might be, we can be there to scale with you. We've had clients that have used us in that capacity where they've, quadrupled their business in the span of 18 months. We've had clients that say, holy moly, we want you to be our whole front service desk completely, where we act as a part of them. We're all US based. We're 24/7. We're there just being a part of their team.
Like a lawyer.
Like a lawyer.
You see what I'm saying? Like, you guys are like the expert in the customer experience. Like the lawyer is the expert in law, and like the IT service provider is the expert in IT. You are the customer experience czar, the Donsky.
Yeah. I've never thought of it that way, but
that's how it is.
That's
because it's different than having some dudes, right? Because you guys actually know how to train and know how to hold the KPIs and know how to deliver, because your whole thing is delivering the service to their customer, because that's your service to your customers. If you don't do that, so it's not just like, well, we'll have somebody to get the phone. It's like, we've got the guys that are going to get the phone, that are trained, that are at the level that you wish they were, that you can't do in your own organization in some instances. So, you can write your own contracts, right? And get out there and write my own. Me and ChatGPT, we write a fucking contract, but my lawyer will do it better. And that's you guys with customer experience.
I love that. This is recorded, right? We're going to have to repurpose that.
I'll get it to you for sure.
I love it.
What else? I keep cutting you off with.
No, this is great. I think that the real, going deeper into that whole aspect is that we've got some clients that say, hey, we want to give you full control, where you are the Donsky, you are the, the customer experience people. And then we've got some clients that say, hey, I want to give you the opportunity to just grab the information, tee it up for me, I'll hit it out of the park. Or, hey, I want you to do a little bit of deflection, ask those questions, understand the priority, and then send it our way. And so because of the feedback, that's my first purple box in my little slides. Because of the feedback that we got, we ended up creating 3 different offerings. One, we call it Help Now. We get super cute with the marketing stuff. Help Now, where we're literally just picking up the phone. We're doing triage. We're asking the customer what's going on. We're understanding if it's a P1, P2, and then we're escalating based on what our clients would say to us. Hey, if it's a P1, escalate it immediately. Call this phone number. Hey, it's a P2, send a message in Teams, get it out there, but don't go too crazy. The second offering is where we do that dynamic troubleshooting. We call it Helped Flow. The idea is that somebody calls in and says, hey, my printer's not working. Okay, let's take a couple of steps. Let's figure out what might be happening. Let's try to resolve it through, rebooting, restarting the printer, power site, whatever it is. And then if that ultimately doesn't work, we hand it off to our client. And so we're, FCR, first call resolution, we're somebody that can be there, that can potentially deflect the cases while also prioritizing and triaging what's going on. My favorite tagline for that one is we say time we spend is time you don't have to spend. So if somebody called you or somebody sent in a ticket or chat or whatever, it would come to us. We would do all of the gathering. We would do what we could to deflect that issue. And then if we couldn't, we'd send it to you. But all the time that we had spent on it to figure out all that information, yeah, you've got it. And you just take off from there. Last one, full embedded help desk. That's where we become your service desk. We've got the one-man band that says, hey, I want to take a vacation. I haven't taken a vacation in 10 years. Awesome. Plug us in. Direct us from your phone in the middle of the ocean. We've got the people that are, 50 technicians and more that say, we told our clients, our expectations that we set with our clients was that we were going to answer the phone 98% of the time within 3 minutes. Right now, we're 95% of the time. We need some help getting it over that hurdle. And so we've got people that are these massive organizations that are using us to bridge the gap between their SLAs. We've got these much smaller organizations that are using us to bridge the gap between their time and ours. And so the name of the company is Helped, and it's because we want to get out there and help people. And we want to help them scale. We want to help them succeed. We want to help them grow. We want to help them do, scaling currency. We want to help them do what they set out to do.
Is that so I've got, when I was a kid, I liked this song. It was called Headstrong by Trapped. But you spell trapped, Trapped, right? And is helped, HELPED, but you went with the T. Or did I just spell?
No, you got it.
Do I know? Because I'm not a sharp speller. I'm not the sharpest speller.
So the story about that goes that Matt, my partner, and I decided that this is what we were going to do. And we were sitting outside on a summer day, and we're eating ice cream. And I think one of those it was a yogurt land. So, the ones where you can make your own and put your own toppings on it. Yeah. And for me, it was probably some weird concoction of things. But we're sitting there, and the question about what we were going to call this thing kept coming up. And I kept thinking to myself, how can we be cool and edgy and all of that stuff? And it popped into my head, Helped, it's the past tense of helping somebody. That's our goal. And then we got home and we searched it and we saw if anybody else was using it or anything like that. And it turns out that helped in Dutch is the present tense of helping somebody. And so helped in Dutch, even though we're not Dutch, and then helped in past tense. So
I love it.
It worked out.
I love it, man. Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
seriously, this was a blast.
I appreciate it.
I'm going to give a really quick one for me. So it's at the end of the show, and then I'll take us out of here. So that sounds good to you. All right.
Perfect.
Tri-Unity Strategies is a full-service consulting firm that supports IT service providers, startups, small businesses, and restaurants in solving unique problems and scaling. I would love to support anybody that's interested. If you're interested in coming on the podcast, if you're an entrepreneur, feel free to reach out as well. I love having conversations with folks. David, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Looking forward to the next time we chat. Have a good Memorial Day. I hope it's slow. Or actually, I hope it's busy from a business perspective, but I hope you don't have to answer any of the calls. And next week, I'm going to look. I think it's our friend John Robertson to continue our conversation about myths of AI and the progression of the journey to decentralized AI. But I want to make sure, because I like to be correct. I did this last week where I didn't know off the top also. Oh, I went backwards. Well, it is John, and I can't wait for it. So thank you guys so much for joining us on the Business Strategies Roundtable. David, thanks for going over a little bit. I hope you didn't have anything in the time slot. Thanks everyone for joining, and have a great Memorial Day weekend. Bye, everybody.